Hello and welcome to Sport Vibes on DNTWOK. Of course, this is that channel where you get to catch up with some of the latest updates across the world of sports, while we also pride ourselves in taking life lessons from several of these stories from the world of sports. My name is Bolaji Alimi, the sport pilot, and yet again I have the privilege of being your host and the one to fly you around the world of sports, while we also take the lessons, as I said. Stay tuned and get set for this enjoyable ride. Welcome back to Sport Vibes on DNTWOK. This week we'll be talking about a very interesting player, a very popular footballer who's been doing his business for quite some time now and still on the scene, but maybe not as popular as he used to be. We're talking about no other player than Edin Hazard. So this is a player, a very good player. In fact, good is not enough adjective to describe this fantastic footballer. Really, what a career Edin Hazard has had, and if you're a football fan, definitely Edin Hazard is not a strange name. As a matter of fact, the name Hazard is like a household name in football from Belgium to across the world, because he's not only the footballer from his family. He's born of two former footballers. Thierry, the father, used to be a semi-professional footballer, and the mother, Caroline, used to be a footballer as well in the Belgian First Division. So Edin Hazard was born of footballers. Of course, they are former footballers now, talking about the parents. But not only Hazard, of course, Hazard is the eldest of four brothers. In case you don't know that already, he is the eldest of four brothers. They are all brothers in the family, talking about the children now. Hazard, we have Torgan Hazard as well, who is the immediate younger brother of Edin Hazard. And of course, we have Kylian Hazard and Edin Hazard. So we're just saying all this to kind of lay a foundation on what we're about to mention. We're not really going deep into the story and history of Edin Hazard and his lineage. We're just saying all this to know the kind of background he came from. He grew up playing football, literally. He grew up into football. So Edin Hazard has been around the game for some time now. He used to be that youngster at Lille that was shining, and then there was a point as Wenger wanted to get him. Sir Alex Ferguson wanted to get him as well, talking about two great managers in the past. But eventually, one way or the other, not to also bore us with some of these stories, which some of us may be familiar with already, but to drive straight at the point, eventually, Edin Hazard, after the old drama surrounding his transfer from Lille to England, eventually signed for Chelsea in 2012. Back then, Chelsea were just crowned European champions in a dramatic version, of course, beating Bayern Munich in the finals, and then wanting to strengthen their squad to improve on the previous season. They eventually signed Hazard, and then that season, one way or the other, they found themselves in the Europa League. Edin Hazard played with them that very first season, and they won the Europa League. So already we are mentioning some of his achievements with Chelsea, because immediately after Hazard signed for Chelsea, he literally got up and running. I'll mention quite a number of his achievements. He was the first non-French player to win the Ligue 1 Young Player of the Year. That was back in France while he was playing for Lille, because he got into the squad quite early under coach Rudy Garcia. Back then at Lille, at the age of 16, he had already made his first team debut, and then within a few years they were able to do well for themselves in the league. Hazard was at the center of that also. We had the likes of Javinho, the Ivorian, also doing well at Lille back then, just to take you back in history for some time. So Lille were Ligue 1 champions while Edin Hazard was there. But eventually, as I said earlier, Edin Hazard moved to Chelsea, and then he got up and running really. Maybe the first season was not the kind of height he eventually set for himself, but as it is for every player, there's a period of easing yourself into a new league, especially one as difficult and tough as the Premier League. But as a matter of fact, Hazard did not do badly. He did well enough to impress in his first season, but the second season was a very good one. Was an improvement on the first, because he was able to secure PFA Young Player of the Year award, and also in the 2014-15 season he was able to win the FWA, talking about the Football Writers Association's Player of the Year award, and then the PFA Players Player of the Year award, that is voted for by players, while the players that emerge as the winners of the FWA are being voted for by the Football Writers Association. So Edin Hazard was able to do that because Chelsea won the league, and he was a very pivotal player in doing that. He was like the cog of the team back then. But of course, while Hazard was doing well for Chelsea in England, His exploits were not limited to club alone. He was also improving for his country. As a matter of fact, when he was crowned the captain, when he was selected as the captain of the Belgian national team, of course we know he belongs to that golden generation in Belgium where you have the likes of Lukaku, a lot of players, Axel Witsel, Kevin De Bruyne, talk of superstars. Vincent Kompany, the former Manchester City captain, now a coach, was also a member of the team. Thomas Vermaelen, quite a number of players in and around. Origi, DNTWOK Origi, Michy Batshuayi, a number of players like Edin Hazard as well. To mention a few really, because I know yourself, if you are a football fan, can list quite a number of them. Belgium have got talent definitely in football, and Hazard was able to lead this team not just to quarterfinals, a lot of quarterfinals, the Euro 2016 quarterfinals, the Euro 2020, which was played in 2021, the quarterfinal stage as well, and of course the 2014 World Cup. They were able to make it as far as the quarterfinals, but in the year 2018, still under his leadership, the Belgian national team were able to make it as far as the semi-finals, but unfortunately they could not go beyond that. But in spite of the disappointment of not being able to go all the way to win the World Cup in Russia in 2018, Hazard was still able to do well for himself, talking about making an individual mark and of course improving the team on a whole, because he was eventually crowned the winner of the silver ball, that is the second best player in the entire tournament. So we're saying all this to bring to your remembrance, if you are familiar with Edin Hazard, that this is quite a player that has done well for himself, has had a very, very terrific career positively. And for those of you that may not really know much about Edin Hazard, maybe you're just new to football, love other sports, but you're just easing yourself into football as well, or you don't do much of football at all, Edin Hazard has been a super player, exciting to watch, full of skill, close control, dribbling, accuracy, shot accuracy to an extent, does a lot for himself and scores quite a number of goals also. Definitely one of Chelsea's top goal scorers in history. So now, having said all this about Edin Hazard, of course, there goes the story of him also winning his second Premier League title in the year 2016-17 under Antonio Conte. Quite a number of things he did as well, but we may not be able to mention everything because they are quite handful. But Hazard, the bottom line is the fact that Edin Hazard has been a very, very great player, still playing, still at the age of 31, still active as a footballer. But the but comes now, because a lot of us don't even hear about him as much as we did back then. In the year 2018, Edin Hazard felt it was time to move on from Chelsea, having spent about 6 years, done well for himself, a lot of accolades, won almost everything that was to be won except the Champions League, won the League Cup, the FA Cup, the Premier League, and several other individual titles as well. So maybe at that point you could say it was time to move on to progress, and that was what everyone thought, except Chelsea fans, of course, that wanted their superstar to stay. But Edin Hazard was not going to have that. He felt it was time to move on and he was not going to extend his contract. So having just a year left on his contract, he decided to move to Real Madrid in Spain. Of course, at that point in time, Real Madrid were the dominant force in Europe. They were almost indomitable under Zinedine Zidane. They had won Champions League back to back to back, doing so well for themselves. And then Edin Hazard joined Real Madrid at that point in time. So in the year 2019, Hazard moved on to Real Madrid, but the bottom line of that is that, as many have found out so far, it has not turned out as many expected. A superstar, many times you expect superstars when they move on to join the Galacticos in Real Madrid to just join them in doing well, to just progress as the team has been doing, but that wasn't so for Edin Hazard. You can say he was quite unlucky with injuries immediately after getting to Spain, but a lot of external factors did not really work in his favor, and that has meant that so far Hazard has played a very, very big part role in the success, because Real Madrid has been successful in spite of his limited opportunities. Talking about Hazard, he has been able to just play a very limited role in the success Real Madrid has enjoyed in the last few years. So now, focusing on Hazard, what story are we trying to bring out? What lesson are we trying to learn from the story rather? It's just the fact that the grass is not always greener at the other side. Many times, maybe after achieving so much success in the business, in our academics, in our career, we feel it's just time to do something, try something different, do something new. But it may not be so really, because there is that tendency in humans to get familiar with things and to feel it's getting boring here now. we've done all we need to do. We've enjoyed everything that needs to be enjoyed. Now it's time to spice things up with something new, a new challenge, a fresh challenge. That is not bad. It's a very good thing to desire for more and not just remain stagnant. But at the same time, we have to be sensitive to be very, very sure that that is the right move at that time, because maybe if Hazard had waited a bit more or just decided to stay at Chelsea, stay put, I'm not saying that would have guaranteed success, but just trying to learn lessons from this story that it's not about Edin Hazard being a bad person or a bad player. It's not about him down in the tools when he got to Real Madrid, but sometimes the way we picture it in our minds may not be the way it really is until you get into the position and you find out that truly it's not always greener at the other side. So we are preaching patience here. We're talking about patience. Patience is a very, very rare virtue you rarely find in many of us as humans. We tend to want it at that very time, but sometimes a little patience will do. Maybe just give it a time, observe more, pray more, seek more counsel from those who have gone before you in the same business, in the same course or field of study, in the same career path. What do I do now? Should I stay put? Should I step it up? It doesn't mean men can give absolute counsel, but sometimes when we learn from those who have gone before us, or just look at their examples without meeting them personally, we can learn lessons from their mistakes so that we don't repeat the same thing. Because Hazard could have looked at players like Gareth Bale, some other players that had gone from Premier League or superstars from other clubs that moved to Real Madrid and things just did not click. Maybe Hazard's zone was different. It was a different factor entirely, with injuries also playing its role. But at the same time, maybe things could have gone differently if he had stayed put at Chelsea. So several other things can be said, but that is the whole story this time around. The first one, of course, being the fact that the grass isn't always green at the other side. Sometimes you just need to stay put, because not every forward movement is progress. So that's it on Sport Vibes on DNTWOK this week. My name is Bolaji Alimi and I've been your host. Thank you so much for joining. Bye for now. Thank you so much for watching Sport Vibes on DNTWOK. If you enjoyed the video, ensure you subscribe, like, and share the video. Thank you.